What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Prophecy Misfits Podcast. This is episode 337, Pay with Benefits. And we got a lot of things to talk about that have to do with corruption and payments and all that type of stuff. So there's going to be an interesting amount of things, or a lot of interesting things going on. And so we'll talk about that stuff. But yeah, welcome in. This is what we do on Tuesdays and Saturdays. We get together and we watch for the signs of the times. We watch for the crazy things that are happening all around us. We're called to be watchmen. We're called to pay attention and to make sure that we're aware of the crazy things happening that are foreshadows and prophetic events that'll happen post-rapture into the day of the Lord. So that's what we do, is we just keep an eye on everything. We watch for stuff. We were given plenty of description of what the last days are going to look like, and as those continue to increase, both in volume and in just intensity and everything like that, then we know we're getting closer. How much time we have, we don't know. But it doesn't matter. We just keep doing what we're called to do, and when the Lord comes, the Lord will come. But yeah, so welcome in. Glad to have you here. Yeah, so we got a bunch of stuff. Everything from Diwali stuff, the Hindu thing. We got stuff with that. We got crypto banking. We got money corruption payment stuff. And we got a whole bunch of other things. So we'll just go through it like we usually do and all that type of stuff. But yeah, dark times, crazy times, evil times, and it's all increasing. And us, as I believe in Christ following Christians, we should be encouraged by it. And I hope that you're encouraged by it. I know I am. And yeah, so all right. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. One other thing. I'm sure some of you may have been seeing some of the effects of it, but ever since it was yesterday, the Amazon Web Services went down, which is the cloud, which pretty much everything runs off of. Ever since that went down yesterday, my internet's kind of been wonky. So if it cuts out, if it pauses, if it freezes, if the stream just drops, unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. But yeah, ever since that thing, the AWS blackout situation, it seems like they're still, even though they say it's over, they're still trying to get stuff online. And it seems my internet was affected by that. So I apologize. I've had really bad internet speed all day, and hopefully it'll hold. So I was praying for that before this thing started. All right, let's see how y'all are doing in the chat tonight. Let's see here. We got jellyfish. Joseph, pineapple. No, there's no pineapple pizza. I'm telling you guys, it's a sin. Repent of thy unholy sin of pineapple on pizza. But good to see you, jellyfish. Thank you for being here. Let's see, Doodles. That name every time. Good to see you, Doodle Toot. Thanks for being here. And hopefully you're doing all right tonight. We got Nicole is here as well. Good to see you, Nicole. And hopefully you're doing well this Tuesday evening. Angela Pope is here. What is, you got the Queen of England is your picture? Good to see you, Angela. Glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Lori S is here as well. Good to see you, Lori. And hopefully you're doing all right tonight. Appreciate you. Let's see here. Jalapeno in the house. Good to see you, Jalapeno. God bless you. Well, God bless you, Jalapeno and Titus, to life, and all y'all in here. But good to see you, Jalapeno. Hopefully you're doing well this evening. Let's see. We got Helen M as well. Good to see you, Helen. Hopefully everything is well for you over there. Glad to see you. Misfit Carol is here as well. Hugs. I'm driving. Well, hopefully you're not sending this while you're driving. That wouldn't be good. But good to see you, Carol. Safe driving. Yeah, good stuff. Let's see here. Mindy Grant is here as well. Always good to see you, Mindy. Thank you for being here. I'm noticing there's some people in the chat that are saying it's freezing and cutting out and whatnot. I'm not seeing any issues on my end on this, so it's probably issues with either the platforms or something like that. So I don't know what's going on. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not seeing anything on my end. So, yeah. Again, nothing I can do about it if it is on my end. Let's see. We got Matt Linton as well. Good to see you, Matt. And hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully that leg is feeling better, man. And you're getting some rest, and hopefully you'll be able to get on that thing soon if you're not already. So good to see you, though. Jojo by his grace is here. Always good to see you, Jojo. Thank you for being here. Proton Girl is here as well. Good to see you, Proton. Let's see here. Jump down. Yeah, I'm just getting some people saying it's all good. So, like I said, this stuff, I know Boxcast, if you're on my website, they're running off of the AWS cloud, so they still might be having some issues there. Rumble, I'm not sure about them. I know YouTube is also on the AWS cloud. That's why everybody was saying, why aren't YouTube videos and stuff working? It was because of that. So, yeah, it's amazing how they want to switch everything to digital and everything's running off of the AWS cloud. And then all of a sudden when it goes down, everything goes down. Fascinating. Hopefully you guys are paying attention to that. I didn't plan on talking about that today, but hopefully you guys are paying attention to that. So, Patrick Starr, what's going on, man? Good to see you. Let's see. Jonathan is here. Just started watching your podcast. Well, good to see you, Jonathan. And hopefully you stick around, man. Glad to have you here. Victoria is here. Good to see you, Victoria. Is that a, what's your picture? Is that a bird? I can't tell what that picture is. But man, I'm still got the gnats. I can't get rid of the gnats, guys. So if I keep swatting at stuff, I got those gnats here. Good to see you, Victoria. What is your picture? I'm curious what that is. Tina is here. Good to see you, Tina. Titus 2 Life is here as well. Good to see you. Let's see. Hello, Beloved is here. Good to see you. Trace Severs is here as well. And a refresh choice. Yeah, it's gotta love it. Rebecca Irestone is here as well. If you wanted a day, we'll start talking really slow. Yeah, no, not gonna do that, Rebecca. Got a mission. Got a mission. A mission from God. Mission from God. Yeah, good to see you, Rebecca. Peanut is here as well. Good to see you, Peanut. Now this world is here. Chris Believer is Jesus. Or believer in Jesus, not Chris Believer is Jesus. No, we don't do that. Good to see you, Chris. Gail is here. Good to see you, Gail. Let's see. Over on the Rumble side, we got Cherokee Chick. Mindy G's over there. Pickle Weeds as well. Good to see you. Jacques. Good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. And over on the website, we got Clara's over there. T as well. Amanda, Pineapple Pizzas. Jesus, no, not of this world. Now you're speaking heresy. Might have to reconsider you as a moderator if you keep that stuff up. Amanda is here as well. Sherry M is there. Doc as well. Good to see you guys. Am I missing anybody? I'm sure I'm missing somebody. Katie's over there as well. So good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. But I'll pick you out. It's not done like you. It's just we got a bunch of stuff to get to. And first up, housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
No, thank you. Sleeping.
Housekeeping?
All right, for housekeeping, usual spiel. If you guys can, like, share, subscribe. Get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. So if you guys can do me a solid and like, share, subscribe, I would certainly appreciate it. It helps reach the people who are lost. They're looking for any type of idea or understanding of what exactly is going on with the insanity in the world. Those are the ones that are trying to seek it out, but they may not know Jesus. And of course, we hit them with the gospel and with the hope that only Jesus Christ can provide. So if you guys can do me a solid, like, share, subscribe, it helps reach those people. Also, if you guys can, follow me Rumble and Telegram. Those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be back up live streaming over on Rumble. So make sure you guys follow me there. Telegram, post updates, announcements, and other little things that I can't necessarily put in video format. So make sure you guys follow me over there. If you don't like Rumble, you don't like Telegram, I completely understand. Just go ahead and make sure that you bookmark the official WretchedWatchmen.com website. That's your one-stop shop for everything going on with this thing that we call Wretched Watchmen. I don't even know what it is. It's just a thing. But yeah, so make sure you guys go over there. You'll find the latest podcast announcements, live streams, and everything that you want to know is over there. So make sure you guys bookmark the website. Last but not least, if you guys would like to support this channel, what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. This channel's not monetized. I don't make anything from ads, views, or anything like that. It is solely donation based. That's how we run. And I just can't thank you guys enough for your support. You guys make this work. You guys make this run. the Lord blesses me through you guys, and I pray that you are blessed as well. So thank you for your support. Okay, that's all we got as far as housekeeping. All right, let's go ahead and get into this before the entire internet collapses, shall we? Because that's always fun. All right, first up, we're going to be taking a look at this wonderful thing that just occurred. So right now, what's going on right now is it's Hindu Diwali celebration, festival of lights that they do every year. About this time, it's usually late October, early November, somewhere in there. But it's a Hindu religion, and coming out. When was this? This was October 7th. California makes Diwali an official statewide holiday. So we got the lovely Hinduism spreading throughout the United States. I believe this is the third state to implement it as a state holiday. It says California has become the third U.S. state to designate Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights, as an official statewide holiday. Newsom signed a bill into law Tuesday to go into effect on January 1st. It would authorize public schools and community college to close on Diwali. So we're going to be closing down the state for a Hindu religion. So state employees could elect to take the day off, and public school students will get an excused absence to celebrate the holiday. The new law recognizes that Diwali is also celebrated by Sikhs, Jains, and Buddhists. Pennsylvania was the first U.S. state to make Diwali a statewide holiday in 2024, followed by Connecticut earlier this year. Assembly member Ash Kalra from San Jose, who co-authored the bill with Darshana Patel. I mean, clearly these people are Hindu who did this. An assembly member from San Diego said he grew up celebrating the festival with family members, but it is an experience that was isolated from the rest of his life, and so on and so forth. So we're at a point now where we're just going to go ahead and start taking pagan religions and adopting them as holidays and stuff, which, I mean, we're not going to get into that whole discussion, but you look at all the holidays that we already have. Doesn't matter if it's Christmas to Easter to Valentine's Day to Halloween. They're all pagan holidays and whatnot. We're not going to get into that whole discussion right now. But still, it's just, this is another element of creeping the stuff in and attaching it to government, attaching it to federalization of these things. And we understand here in the United States, part of the whole thing of this was you were free to have religion yourself, but that doesn't mean that it needs to be thrown down your throat. And it just, whenever I see stuff like this, the first thing that pops into my head is just another check in the laundry list of why judgment is coming down upon this country. And I'm specifically talking about this country because of stuff that we say like this. It's just another check to another strike of judgment coming around this country. And I know that there was that whole thing that we had going on that was getting passed around the church and the prophecy community and everything like that, where all the pastors were saying, if we want God to give us a break and to restore everything that's going on, or give us a moment of reprieve, then we need to make sure that we get Trump in there, because he's going to protect Christianity and he's going to protect God and he's going to do all these things or whatever. And that's just been a giant lie, because October 20th, presidential message from Trump on Diwali. Today I send my best wishes to every American celebrating Diwali, the festival of lights. For many Americans, Diwali is a timeless reminder of light's victory over darkness. It is also a time to bring families together and friends together to celebrate community, draw strength from hope, and embrace a lasting spirit of renewal. As millions of citizens light diyas and lanterns, we rejoice in the eternal truth that good will always triumph over evil. This is the guy that we're told was supposed to be restoring, protecting Christianity and that all this stuff, but yet he's speaking of a Hindu holiday that's talking about eternal truth and good, which is interesting. To every American celebrating Diwali, may this observance bring abiding serenity, prosperity, hope, and peace. It's always fascinating, because whenever, for all the years that we saw when Obama and Biden were in office and stuff like that, all the pastors would come out whenever these things happened, whenever they promoted or endorsed some type of religion, they would just hammer it and hammer it and hammer it. But because it's Trump, all of a sudden, it's like three blind mice up in here. They're not seeing it. I wonder why. But yeah, so coming from the office of the president here, from the White House, he is telling everybody to have a great Diwali because he's doing it as well. As we move along to this just came out today. Trump to host Diwali Festival of Lights at the White House. So not only did he send out a message, but he was hosting the Festival of Lights. It says Trump will celebrate the triumph of good over evil during the Diwali Festival of Lights celebration at 4 p.m. at the White House Oval Office today on Tuesday. Diwali is a symbolic celebration of the triumph over good and evil held in either October or November by Hindus and other in India and elsewhere, with lights representing good triumph over evil, which is represented by darkness. Basically what it is, it's the celebration. It's a 4-day celebration where they not only they lift up specific Hindu gods. We know there's several hundred of them, but they lift up specific Hindu gods like Vishnu and whatnot like that. And it's a time to bring them up and celebrate them for what they have done. And on the 4th day, they believe that Vishnu escapes from hell and steps back onto the earth to bring wonder and prosperity and life to the earth and whatnot. And it's also a time for people to light their lanterns and their candles, their diyas as they call them, and meditate inward in order to enlighten their own souls. Again, we know Hinduism is part of the mystery religion, and it's the worship of self and so on and so forth. So that's what it is. And so Trump is endorsing it and he's promoting it. Gavin Newsom is making it a statewide holiday, the 3rd state to do it. And this is actually today, video of what took place in the Oval Office. Check this out.
Would you like to come to light?
Yeah, if you want. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you all. Thank you.
So that's the dude who's, as Eric Trump would say, saving God. That's the guy who's protecting the Christian faith in the country and restoring and to help make it so God doesn't bring judgment down upon this country. And he's the one that's helping propel and celebrate a Hindu festival at the head of the country and whatnot. This is not anything new. You can see this is back from 2024. Biden celebrates Diwali at the White House with message from International Space Station astronaut. So he carried this through, as well as we go through the timeline here. First ever White House Diwali was in 2003 by George W. Bush. So it started with Bush, and then Barack carried it through on his time as well. With we can see here Obama's in 2009, Obama's in 2016. Trump did this in 2017, so this is not the first time he's done it. He carried it through in 2017 as well. Biden did it in 2022. Kamala Harris, 2023. We just saw 2024 with Biden, and then today we see that Trump kept it going. So nothing's changed as far as the endorsement and the projection of false pagan religions in this country. Nothing has changed when it comes to circumventing any type of judgment that God's going to place upon this country. That was always something that I fought from the very beginning. Those who claim that because Trump is in there, we're going to get some type of reprieve, which is funny because, again, like I said before, this was The message was he's going to stop all of this pagan stuff in this country. That's what he was going to do. And he never did. Why? Because these are the times that we're in. We're in a sinful, dark, fallen world. And all of the leaders that we have right now are sinful and fallen. Majority of them, I would say, are just going along with the script that's been handed to them by the puppeteers, which Trump is clearly a part of that. If you still can't admit that, then you're not looking at the evidence. And so this is where we're at right now. These are part of the end times that's happening. And we need to make sure that we don't deceive ourselves when it comes to what we're seeing right now. We need to make sure that we don't deceive ourselves, because again, I hear it all the time. Let's call out what Biden and Obama did with all the pagan religions that they endorsed. But yet we have a man here that is doing the exact same thing. I just showed you, doing literally the exact same thing. And it's crickets. And so we need to make sure that we're not deceiving ourselves and we're being honest to ourselves, because if we're not being honest to ourselves about everything that's happening right now, then we're not going to have the knowledge that we need in order to go out and witness and to encourage one another and to do the work that God has given us to do. And we have so many talking heads around the church community right now that because they're in their own self-delusion about this stuff, they are not giving the proper information in order to equip us to go out and do our jobs. Withholding information is not going to help anybody. Choosing to not talk about certain things because of your own personal situation or desire or agenda or bias or whatever the case may be, not talking about that stuff is only going to hurt us. We need to be fully equipped. What is the first thing that the army does before they take any action? They go out and collect intelligence. It's information. Information is the first thing. And if we're not fully equipped on information, we cannot fight our battles properly. We cannot do our jobs properly. And we need to make sure that we're continuing to find out every bit of what is happening around us in order for us to do our job. We really need to make sure that we do that. Otherwise, we're only hurting ourselves and others around us. So, sorry, tiny little soapbox there, but all right, let's go ahead and jump over into what we got going on with tech and finance. So we talked about this a few months back when it was just a rumor. It wasn't actually confirmed yet. There's a rumor going around that Palmer Luckey, Peter Thiel, and Joe Lonsdale were starting up a crypto bank. And it looks like this is actually happening. So it says Palmer Luckey's Peter Thiel-backed crypto bank clears key regulatory hurdle. Doesn't he just look... I don't know. He whenever you see Palmer Luckey, if you don't know Palmer Luckey, he's the dude that is head of Anduril. Whenever you see Palmer Luckey, he's like one of those dudes where in some pictures, he looks like the guy that you would just have a blast hanging out with on like the weekend. But then in some of his pictures, he just looks super like mentally unstable. And he kind of bounces back and forth. I think those two kind of played together, having a good time on a weekend and being mentally unstable, but that's just how I view it. I don't know. There's just some guys that have that thing. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah, Jellyfish 80s guy. Yeah, it looks like he could be in some like 80s detect like Hawaii 5-0 or something like that. Anyways. So this is federal regulators have granted preliminary approval to Erebor Bank, the crypto and tech-focused financial outfit co-founded by Palmer Luckey and backed by Peter Thiel and Joe Lonsdale. Palmer Luckey is part of Anduril. He's the one that created the Oculus and sold it to Zuckerberg and Meta. And then he started Anduril, and Anduril is one of the major private contracting groups that gets a lot of contracts from the United States government. And then we know Peter Thiel and then Joe Lonsdale, they have the background when it comes to PayPal. Joe Lonsdale's 8VC. Peter Thiel's connected, of course, with Palantir and a whole host of other stuff as well. But yeah, so those are the three guys who are part of the elite echelon with what's going on. It says, I am committed to a dynamic and diverse federal banking system, and our decision today is a first but important step in living up to that commitment. Jonathan Gould, the comptroller of the currency, said on Wednesday. The green light is a necessary step towards opening. Erebor is the first bank to receive such approval since Gold was sworn in July. Lucky, who also co-founded autonomous weapons manufacturer and Dural Industry, helped start Erebor earlier this year. Thiel's Founders Fund and Lonsdale 8VC have invested in the startup, valuing it at least $2 billion. It says a fundraising memo for Erebor circulated earlier this year. That was the rumor that we talked about earlier, because nobody could confirm the thing. You just saw that they were doing something, and then this came out. But yes, there's a fundraising memo from Erebor circulated earlier this year to prospective investors. Said the bank anticipated federal banking regulators would grant final approval for its plans less than 6 months after it submitted its application in June. A speedy timeline, however, the bank said was possible because of Lucky's political ins. Business Insider previously reported. Again, you look at who's involved with this. Lucky, Thiel, and Lonsdale, they're all in the club, the Trump administration club. They're all wrapped up in all this type of stuff. So for them to get this fast-tracked would make a lot of sense because we understand that's politics. That's how it works. It's corrupt that way. This is Palmer's political network will get this done, the memo said. The memo also advertised an Erebor co-founder's unique connectivity to banking regulators, included Gold, and so on and so forth. It says Lucky contributed over $1 million to politicians and political committees in 2024, mostly Republican linked, according to federal records. But Lucky's relationship with Trump goes back earlier than that to his first administration. So there's no surprise there. This is another one that the bank Erebor is another, because there's this theme of Lord of the Rings references. Palantir is connected to Lord of the Rings. And Dural is Lord of the Rings. Erebor is Lord of the Rings as well, which is interesting. We understand that these dudes are nerds, but I don't know if there's something more to it, why they would continue to name things after Lord of the Rings stuff. So, I don't know. I know there's a lot of people that say, well, the dude who wrote Lord of the Rings was like a big Christian and stuff like that. He wasn't a Christian. He was actually very much devout Catholic. So maybe that has something to do with it. I'm not sure. I agree, Patrick. Nerds. Getting their revenge. Revenge of. But I don't know. If you guys can find something or come up with a theory about that, let me know. I'd be curious to see what y'all do come up with. All right. Moving on. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. This is top nuclear weapons agency to furlough most staff amid. Wow, I just heard like a high screeching noise. Sorry. Top nuclear weapons agency to furlough most staff amid shutdown. This is going to be interesting. The Trump administration is planning to furlough the vast majority of the civilian staff at a key agency that helps manage the nation's nuclear weapons stockpile, according to a notice obtained by Politico. The National Nuclear Security Administration, which falls under the Energy Department, will exhaust its available funding on Saturday, according to the notice. As a result, approximately 1,400 employees will be furloughed. The notice states that about 375 will remain on the job for work that has been exempted from the shutdown. In all, about 80% of the agency's personnel won't report to work on Monday. The agency doesn't directly operate U.S. nuclear weapons, which falls to the Pentagon, but it is a key component of America's nuclear capabilities by maintaining and modernizing warheads, overseeing Navy nuclear propulsion, and managing non-proliferation programs. Republicans on Friday warned that there could be consequences because of the furloughs, though the memo to lawmakers states that Energy Department and the NNSA are looking at all options to ensure continuity of the critical national security missions. So we're at a point now where the people who play a pretty important role, they don't hold the codes or have the buttons, but play a pretty important role when it comes to our nuclear armament here, is going to be stalled pretty heavily. I think that's all on that. There's other stuff, but it's mainly just people complaining about it's the Democrats or it's the Republicans pointing fingers at why this is happening. We don't need to go over that. It's all the same people. It's just playground theater, pointing booger-covered fingers at each other. But this is pretty interesting when it comes to, we're starting to see various pretty important groups. I'm not saying none of the other departments who have had massive furloughs or anything aren't important, because I know some of you in here have family that have been furloughed by the government thing. But we're starting to see some pretty large groups like those who maintain the nuclear warheads. That's a pretty interesting thing, especially right now. And I always like to view it this way, especially right now where there's this heightened sense of the wars and rumors of wars and all that stuff that's happening right now, for a country that seems to be positioning itself for that situation. To have those who maintain nuclear warheads get furloughed doesn't seem to be fitting on that. However, the more that I'm seeing what's going on, the more information that I'm collecting, and I've had this thought. I think I've shared this thought with you guys in the past, but I'm having this thought now. The further that we go in this is, I'm not sure, and this isn't a prediction. This is just me as of right now, just thinking through this stuff. I'm not sure they're going to turn the government back on, quote unquote, because it's shut down right now. I'm not sure they're going to do that. If they do, it'll be a completely different government than what we had before. It will not be status quo. Especially since I think it was today or yesterday, Trump was talking about how they used this government shutdown in order to confirm 175, I think it's 175 positions within the administration that would otherwise have to go through congressional approval, and the whole thing that takes about a week to do. They don't have to do that anymore. They can just go ahead and approve them. And Trump was touting that because of what was going on, of course, he blamed it on the Democrats, of course, that he was able to do this, which they're doing a whole lot of stuff behind the scenes that they couldn't get done as fast because of how they would have to do it if the government was still active. And they're able to get all this stuff done super fast. And so this is clearly within the script. This is clearly theater. If you don't think it is, don't know what to tell you. Everything else that I say after this won't really make much sense to you. But this is clearly, this is an orchestrated shutdown in order to do what they're doing right now in front of our very eyes. And I hope that's clear for everybody here watching. But I'm just saying, there's a chance that the government may not get quote unquote turned back on, from what I'm seeing right now. So this is completely orchestrated. And again, everybody and their mom is still falling for the finger pointing. It's the Democrats, it's the Republicans, and I see it all over there. And I'm sitting here going, you guys are still distracted by this veil that's in front of you that they're doing shadow puppets on in order to keep you entertained by what's going on. The fact is, it's the people behind the veil that are making those shadow puppets. They're all the same. And so that's what we got to remember on this. Now, speaking of corruption, this is fun. This came out today. Said Trump said to demand Justice Department pay him $230 million for past cases. Senior department officials who were defense lawyers for the president and those in his orbit are now in jobs that typically must approve any such payout, underscoring potential ethical conflicts. So basically what he's saying is because of all the past lawfare litigation cases, which those were theater too, to build trust for people to vote for the guy and to accept what he's doing now. Basically, the same people who defended Trump from all those things are now in positions that would be able to write the $230 million check to Trump. Anybody see conflict of interest here? I do. Says President Trump is demanding that the Justice Department pay him about $230 million in compensation for the federal investigations into him, according to people familiar with the matter, who added that any settlement might ultimately be approved by senior department officials who defended him or those in his orbit. The situation has no parallel in American history. This has never happened before. As Trump, a presidential candidate, was pursued by federal law enforcement and eventually won the election, taking over the very government that must now review his claims. It is also the starkest example yet of potential ethical conflicts created by installing the president's former lawyers atop the Justice Department. Trump submitted complaints throughout an administrative claim process that often is the precursor to lawsuits. The first claim, lodged in late 2023, seeks damages for a number of purported violations of his rights, including the FBI and special counsel investigation in a Russian election tampering. Y'all remember that whole debacle of the whole Russian interference and stuff? Man, seems like yesterday. And possible connections to the 2016 Trump campaign, according to people familiar with the matter. And it goes through some of the other stuff. But it says lawyers said the nature of the claims posed undeniable ethics challenges. What a travesty, said Bennett L. Gershman, an ethics professor at Pace University. The ethical conflict is just so basic and fundamental, you don't need to be a law professor to explain it. Again, I certainly hope everybody is catching the conflict of interest and ethical issue being displayed here. So he added, then to have people in the Justice Department decide whether his claims should be successful or not, and these are the people who serve him deciding whether he wins or loses. It's bizarre and almost too outlandish to believe. Now, if we jump down to the bottom of this thing, this is pretty interesting. It says the Justice Department does not specifically require a public announcement of settlements made for administrative claims before they become lawsuits. If or when the Trump administration pays the president what could be hundreds of millions of dollars, there may be no immediate official declaration that it did so, according to current and former department officials. If they pay him, we may not even know that they did. Some former officials have privately expressed misgivings that the department's leaders did not reject Trump's legal claims in the waning days of the Biden administration. It's been a long standard practice for civil litigation, including lawsuits against the government, to be paused until any criminal cases around the same facts have been resolved. So we'll see what happens here. And if they do it, we may not even know about it because they wouldn't have to reveal that possibly until much later. So pretty interesting situation here. This just goes right along with the corruption that's been going on. Yeah, if people don't know, while the government's shut down, people are furloughed, not getting paid. People have lost their jobs. The economy's tanking. The tariffs are doing what they're doing and all this stuff going on right now. Basically, Trump would take $230 million of your money that they stole from you, because taxation is theft, and put it in his pocket. That's what's going on. Add that up to all the other backdoor deals and corruption deals and everything that he's done so far, and the mass amount of money that his entire family has stacked up because of his position at the White House and so on and so forth. It just keeps going. It's part of the wealth transfer. And this is how dictators act on that. So, yeah. Hail to the king. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it, but when the No Kings event was going on, he had the video that he put out where he put on a crown, got into a jet that said King Trump on it, and dumped excrement on people. And then there was the post by JD Vance, which showed Trump putting a crown on and having the Democrats bow to him. But he's not a king or anything. So he's just joking. Remember, that's what I've been told by all the pastors and Christians who support him and so on. So he's just joking. He's just trolling. That's what he does. We don't need to ever take him seriously and all that type of stuff. It's unbelievable. Anyways, all right, moving on. Okay, so yeah. Let's talk about what's going on with Venezuela. So we've been paying attention, or I hope you guys have been. We've talked about it. With what's going on in Venezuela. We've been following the situation there, what seems to be a buildup of some sorts by both the United States and Venezuela, and now Colombia. Gustavo Petro is now getting involved with this, siding with the Venezuela side of things. So that's interesting. Keep an eye on that, because we know that he made claims that one of the boats that the United States blew up was Colombian, not Venezuela. Now, again, we don't know that whole situation. We can't even get confirmation that there's even drugs on these boats, but we know that they're getting blown up. So we've been watching that. There's been a buildup of military ships, planes, even troops in the region over there. We talked about the admiral, the 4-star admiral that resigned from his position. I believe he's going until early December, and then he's out. You can't just immediately leave in that position. You have to give somewhat of a period of time, but he's going to be out, which there was more reports coming out that him and Hegseth did not see eye to eye, and there was many heated conversations on that one. So we have that situation. Now, I've been trying to find something that would give some type of indication of what this is a part of. I don't necessarily want to say what will happen, because again, we don't know. Things change all the time. But if there's something going on with this, we know there's something going on, but I think you guys understand what I'm saying. If there's something more to what's going on. Again, I've heard all the theories: oil, technates, Iranian missiles, all that stuff. I've heard all the theories, but nothing of substance that can be attached to it. I did some looking around. I found 2 things that may tell us that this may actually happen. And the first thing that I found is from October of 2024. It's the untold story of Trump's failed attempt to overthrow Venezuela's president. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, we've heard them talking about how him and Maduro, and we've heard all this stuff. I don't know how you couldn't figure that out. Yeah, that's just talk, though. That stuff gets thrown around all the time. We can't really ever base anything upon that. So I wasn't going to hitch my wagon to it. But having this is adding some validity to a regime change situation. This is a successful CIA hack of Venezuela's military payroll system, insider fights for spy agency resources, and messy opposition politics. The investigation reveals a secret Trump-era attempt to oust autocratic ruler Nicolas Maduro. It says, for some time, the Trump administration had been working furiously to push Maduro, an ally of Cuba and Russia, out of power. In fact, then President Donald Trump, this is during his first administration, had even mused publicly about exercising a possible military option, if necessary, to deal with Venezuela. The day before Maduro's General Assembly address, see if I can make that bigger for you guys. There you go. Hold on. The day before Maduro's General Assembly address, Trump stood at the same UN podium, called the situation in Venezuela a human tragedy, and decried the suffering, corruption, and decay wrought by communist and socialist regimes. The U.S. president then announced the imposition of new sanctions against members of Maduro's inner circle. We jump over here. It says, after that UN meeting, the Trump administration amped up its efforts around the world to isolate and depose the Venezuelan leader, including by levying additional punishing sanctions against his regime. Much of that diplomatic maneuvering played out in public, but the administration also put into motion another very much secret prong to the U.S.'s regime change campaign, a covert CIA-run initiative to help overthrow the Venezuelan strongman. That campaign would pull off at least one disruptive digital sabotage operation against the Maduro regime in 2019, but the CIA-led initiative alongside the Trump administration's wider efforts to get rid of Maduro would fall well short of its ultimate goal. Goes on to say, the story of that secret anti-Maduro effort also lays bare the tensions between an administration with hardliners laser-focused on deposing the Venezuelan autocrat and a CIA deeply reluctant, nevertheless obligated to follow White House orders. It shows the limitations of covert CIA-assisted regime change schemes, particularly when they are not aligned with larger U.S. foreign objectives. And it provides new insights into how a second Trump administration or a Harris presidency might still try to dislodge the Venezuelan strongman, whose latest sham re-election in July 2024 has again thrust his country into chaos. Now, they talk about how it's limitations of regime change and stuff like that. I don't agree with that. I believe that it wasn't time yet. Again, I don't go by the narrative that we're given. I go by viewing it as a risk board when it comes to the geopolitical situation. And with everything being orchestrated, if something is not in place by the time that this whole situation is at a point where they got to either press the button or ditch out, if that other thing is not in place that they need, then they need to bail on their original plan and then move to something else. I think that's what happened here. I believe things weren't ready at the time of Trump's first administration, and so they couldn't go through with what they were trying to do in Venezuela with this whole situation. That's my perspective on it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just going, that's my perspective on this. But what we have here is the fact that this was a regime change operation was in play during Trump's first administration. Now, what's interesting is just a couple days ago, there was a report, and this is always, you always got to really pay attention when it comes to stuff like this. There was a report that came out. I don't have it to throw up on screen, but there's a report that came out a couple days ago that Trump had greenlit, publicly put out there, that Trump had greenlit another CIA operation in Venezuela against Maduro. If you are going to publicly put out that you are greenlighting the CIA to do something like that, that is a signal. That is I want everybody to know what I'm doing, especially a CIA operation, and you're going to publicly greenlight it. That's basically saying, I want everybody to know this is a signal that something is going on. Something is happening. We want you, the peasants, the dirt, to know what we're doing. And so that wasn't a secret breaking story. That wasn't anything like that. If they're doing that publicly, they want you to know. So we have this going on. And a lot of people are saying, well, yeah, I mean, you look at what's going on in Venezuela, and Nicolas Maduro, he's a bad guy. They are. Their country is deteriorating and people are suffering and whatnot. I agree. But it's not the position, it's not the responsibility of the United States to go in and do that. If the people of Venezuela want change, they need to figure out some way of making it happen. It's not our responsibility. And this is something that the United States has done since the very beginning of the founding of this country. They have been involved in teetering other geopolitical situations, being a part of regime changes and playing a part with all the stuff that's going on. It's not something that's new. It's not something that's going to end. But it's something that just from us sitting here, and if we lived in a sane world where everything runs as we're told that it does, even though that it doesn't, but if everything ran how we're told, then it's not our responsibility to do anything. That would be the people of Venezuela. So for those who are saying, well, yeah, we need to get involved because of the people, it's not our responsibility. We got to remember that. Now, that's one. So this is a regime change situation with something that was happening back then. The other thing that I found is a section within the Project 2025 document. A regime change in Venezuela is actually a part of Project 2025. Kid you not. And I still have people asking me and whatnot, can you do something on Project 2025? It ain't going to happen. It's over 900 pages. It's just not going to happen. As much as I know about Project 2025 and everything like that, I still haven't read the whole document. That's just too much. It's just too much. But within Project 2025, it's an actual thing. It's right here. It's page 181 if you want to go and look it up. It's from the Heritage Foundation, which is what the Trump administration is implementing right now. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Once a model of democracy and a true U.S. ally, the Republic of Venezuela has all but collapsed under the communist regimes of the late Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro. In the 24 years since Hugo Chavez was first elected Venezuelan president in 1999, the country has violently cracked down on pro-democracy citizens and organizations, shattered its once oil-rich economy, empowered domestic criminal cartels, and helped fuel a hemispheric refugee crisis. Venezuela has swung from being one of the most prosperous, if not the most prosperous country in South America to being one of the poorest. Its communist leadership has also drawn closer to some of the United States' greatest international foes, including the PRC and Iran, which have long sought a foothold in the Americas. Indeed, Venezuela serves as a reminder of just how fragile democratic institutions that are not maintained can be. To contain Venezuela's communism and aid international partners, the next administration must take important steps to put Venezuela's communist abuser on notice while making strides to help the Venezuelan people. The next administration must work to unite the hemisphere against this significant but underestimated threat in the southern hemisphere. Now, it doesn't come outright and say regime change. We also don't get any indication of how they would do it. But the fact that it's in Project 2025 and they are absolutely actively implementing Project 2025 right now, and we see the buildup of what is happening in that region. The United States Embassy in Trinidad and Tobago has sent out warnings to those on that island that's next to Venezuela. We have the buildup of the militias in Venezuela, talks of bombing within Venezuela, and just recently the public greenlighting of CIA action within Venezuela. There seems to be an indicator that the Project 2025 initiative is quite possibly, seems to be increasing by the day, going to implement action against Venezuela. Now, what would that entail? How would that happen? What would be the repercussions? I don't have a clue. But based on the fact that this was part of the script in the first administration, first Trump administration, and now it's part of Project 2025, and it seems to be building up again. There is a chance that this might actually happen, and the odds of it seem to be playing in the favor of yes as opposed to no. So this thing is planned. It's a part of Project 2025, and I am very curious to see if and when and how this thing happens. So I've been trying to figure this Venezuela thing out. I really have. I've been looking, trying to figure things out. All I can find is theories. But as far as, I don't want to say solid, because at this point nothing's really solid, but the most solidified evidence that I can find has been those things. The report in 2024 and Project 2025. And that's telling in my opinion. So again, as I always say, I know I sound like a broken record, but still, just keep an eye on what's going on down in that region. It's not slowing down. They're still moving pieces around. So we'll see what happens with this. I'm curious to see the repercussions. I'm very interested, especially since we know what's going on with Cuba, and we know what's going on, and we know about the relationship of Russia and Iran with Venezuela. I'm very curious to see what happens if something does kick off with that. What those three countries, how they'll respond. And so this is fascinating. Fascinating to watch. So, yeah. All right. Let's bring it back stateside, shall we? We're good on time. Okay. So we have this. It just came out. Appeals court allows Trump deployment of National Guard in Portland. The 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals paused the lower court's order that had barred the deployment while the state's challenge makes its way through the court system. So this isn't Chicago. This is Portland. And so the last time we talked about Portland, it had to do with the judge, Immigrant, I believe that's her name, Immigrant, who put in a block for deploying National Guard within Portland. And that's when Trump said, okay, we're going to pull California National Guard or Texas National Guard over there. And then she reevaluated, convened a special meeting in order to put a full block where no National Guard from any state can be deployed in Portland. Now that was still active. And then they appealed it. The Trump administration appealed it, which went to the 9th Circuit, which means that there's 3 judges who will look at it, and then it has to be a majority vote in order to either block that block or agree with it and keep it maintained. Well, they blocked it, which means Trump, as of now, there's still some stuff legal stuff that has to happen, but as of now, has a roadway into deploying National Guard within Portland because of it. It says a federal appeals court ruling on Monday will allow the Trump administration to send National Guard troops into Oregon against the state's wishes, hitting pause on lower court's order that had barred the deployment. After considering the record at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority. The panel of the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals judges wrote in a 2-1 ruling. Justice Department attorneys argued in a court filing that U.S. District Judge Karen J. Immergut's ruling temporarily halted the deployment, improperly impinges on the commander-in-chief's supervision of military operations, countermands a military directive to officers in the field, and endangers federal personnel and property. This is... I just don't even know at this point. If we jump down, it says right here, even if the president may exaggerate the extent, this is what the judges who appealed it said. Even if the president may exaggerate the extent of the problem on social media, this does not change that other facts provide a colorable basis to support the statutory requirements. So basically, they're admitting that he's exaggerating what is happening and exaggerating the need for National Guard within Portland. But they're going to go ahead and go through with it anyways. That's what they're ruling. That's what they're saying. The dissenting judge, Susan P. Graber, I think that's how you pronounce that, Graber ripped her colleague's ruling, given Portland's protesters' well-known penchant for wearing chicken suits, inflatable frog costumes, or nothing at all when expressing their disagreement with the methods employed by ICE. Observers may be tempted to view the majority's ruling, which accepts the government's characterization of Portland as a war zone, as merely absurd. And I've had people ask me, I think somebody just asked me last week on the last show that I did, that said, why do they wear the costumes and stuff like that? Literally for what that judge just said is to show the absurdity of the war zone claims that are being pushed out there. That's why they're wearing those costumes, is because they're showing them that we're literally dressed up in inflatable frog and chicken costumes. We're simply exercising the First Amendment right. And then because of that, the idea of it being a war zone just shows the ridiculousness of what's happening. She went on to say it is not merely absurd, it erodes core constitutional principles, including sovereign states' control over their states' militias, which that's another argument that we've talked about, and the people's First Amendment rights to assemble and to object to the government's policies and actions. This is what they're considering a war zone. And there's moments here and there in front of this building. This is where it's all taking place, is this specific ICE building. There's moments where stuff happens, where stuff is, the tear gas is launched. People will step over the blue line, which is moving into federal territory. So they usually go after those people and whatnot. But that's what's going on. There's actually surprisingly not a lot of inflatable costumes there. But yeah, this is basically what they're deeming a war zone. And as of right now, the 2-1 appeal took place, which means the avenue for deploying National Guard has been opened. However, I'm hearing from several attorneys in Oregon, the Attorney General too, that has made reference that this judge, the one who went against the ruling, Susan P. Graber, has called for a full court hearing of the appeals decision. And so what, and bank, something like that. I can't remember what it's called. But basically what that would do is that would draw in, I think all 29, I think it's 29 judges to come in, hear it, and then have a majority vote with all 29 judges on the appeal. So I think it's Wednesday night. It has to be actually in and on the floor available if they're going to do that. But so there is still another step that could happen to block National Guard going in. Now, what's fascinating is if it does get to that position where they're doing a full court ruling or appeal session, if that does go through and they block the appeal, meaning reinstating the block, not allowing National Guard to be deployed in Portland, there's a chance, and I've talked about this before, there's a chance because the only other option that the Trump administration would have at that point is to declare the Insurrection Act to deploy into Portland. And so we've heard them mention it several times. Trump has mentioned it. Stephen Miller has mentioned it. Tom Homan has mentioned it. Kristi Noem has mentioned it. And I'm sure there's some other people that I'm forgetting. Those are the ones that I know off the top of my head who have mentioned the possibility of utilizing the Insurrection Act. And so if this does go to the floor for a full ruling and it does hold and the appeal gets blocked and the National Guard gets blocked, there's a chance that could happen. So this should be fascinating. Fascinating to see what happens. Was that the plan all along? Possibility. Especially since it's not playing at all like what we're used to when you look at the judges, because the one who blocked it initially was a Trump-appointed judge. Then it went to the Court of Appeals. The two judges who voted against the block are not Trump appointees. One was Biden and one was Obama. And then the one who did, or the one who voted against it, is the Trump appointee. So it's interesting. Or no. The two who voted for the block are Trump, and then the one who voted against isn't. So we have a conflict here happening with who's been appointed by who and who's blocking what and everything. So it'll be interesting to see. I probably just confused everybody with that because of me getting things backwards, but I apologize. Hopefully you guys understood. But it'll be interesting to watch what happens. So we'll see what happens Thursday, probably, with the ruling. Okay, let's jump over to this. This came out today. Yesterday. Yesterday. Came out yesterday. ICE boosts weapon spending 700%. Yeah. That's something I'm looking for too. Judges are going to start getting arrested soon. If these judges continue to block things, there is a chance that they may go full authoritarian and just start arresting judges who aren't falling in line, which there has been policies enacted for just that. So we'll see what happens. All right, so ICE boosts weapon spending 700%. A popular information investigation reveals tens of millions in new ICE spending on guns, chemical weapons, and explosives. Yeah. U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has sharply increased its spending on weapons in 2025. Records from the Federal Procurement Data System reveal that ICE has increased spending on small arms, ordnance, and ordnance accessories manufacturing by 700% compared to 2024 levels. Here is where it gets interesting. New spending in the small arms category from January 20th, 2025, the day Trump was inaugurated, through October 18th, totaled $71.5 million. Most of the spending was on guns and armor, but there have also been significant purchases of chemical weapons and guided missile warheads and explosive components. What on earth is ICE doing purchasing guided missile warheads? ICE is there to go and arrest and deport immigrants, right? That's what we've been told. But they're purchasing guided missile warheads. Now, what that is, what that could mean, I don't know. But the fact that it's even on the docket, on the payroll for what they're purchasing. Like I said, the ICE situation is being used. They're mercenaries, and they're being used as its own military. That's really what they're doing. What is the best way to get a military built that is willing to fire upon U.S. citizens? You do it exactly how they're doing it with the ICE situation, especially since we've talked about how ICE most likely has been hiring the Proud Boys. We understand that Eric Prince has been involved with this whole situation. Blackwater, that's private military, that's mercenaries, and so on and so forth. And it seems to me that that's the direction that's happening. So if they're spending $71 million as opposed to the $9 million that they had last year, that should tell you something. On September 29, 2025, ICE made a $9 million purchase from Giselle Automatics, which sells semi-automatic and automatic rifles. The total spending by ICE in the small arms category between January 20th and October 18th, 2024 was $9,700,000. So from January 20th to October 18th last year, it was almost $10 million. And now it's jumped to $71.5 million. Spending on ICE on guns and other weapons this year not only dwarfs spending during the Biden administration, but also during Trump's first term. In 2019, for example, ICE spent $5.7 million on small arms through October 18th. Average ICE spending on small arms during Trump's first 4 years was 8.4. Look at this thing. From 2017 to 2024 to 2025. Ay, caramba, what are they doing? I'm sorry. I don't care if you support what ICE is doing right now. If you're looking at this chart, that should tell you that they're doing something that they're not revealing. There is no way that $71.5 million is being put to use right now. There's something else that they have that we are not being told. And that's just using your brain. That's just using your brain. The data likely underestimates new spending on weaponry deployed in the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, since many other federal agencies beyond ICE have been involved. But it provides a window into how ICE and other agencies are bringing up unprecedented number of high-powered weapons into American cities. Into American cities. And I don't know if anybody's seen it. I just started seeing it a couple days ago. But Kristi Noem is now deploying ICE agents in full-on military outfits. She's disguising ICE as National Guard. Take with that what you will. Take with that what you will. That's not enough. This also came out yesterday. Army counterintelligence agents to get enhanced arrest powers. Civilian special agents of the U.S. Army Counterintelligence Command will receive enhanced authorities to conduct searches, execute warrants, and make arrests outside of military bases. Army counterintelligence leaders announced to members of the media during an October 15th roundtable at the Association of the United States Army's annual conference in Washington, D.C. Title 10 U.S. Code Section 7377, written into the National Defense Authorization Act of 2025, will give the Army's civilian CIA agents authorities that now correspond with civilian law enforcement agencies to conduct law enforcement activities outside of military installations. The Department of Defense implementing guidance for these authorities must be approved by the Attorney General. Who's that? Pam Bondi, who's in favor of this whole domestic terrorist situation that we have going on right now in the country, is Pam Bondi. She's involved with all of that right now. She's been given incredible power through not only executive orders, but also through DoD directives and the NSP PM7 national policy directive, giving her the ability to go after the judges, to give the ability to I don't remember the technical terminology for it, but to just fast track through legal rulings and due process and stuff like that. She can just fast track through it. She's also been given the permission to tag domestic terrorist charges to people. During the No Kings situation, there's been a couple people who were charged with domestic terrorism, even though they didn't actually commit domestic terrorism. It was through verbal speech that they deem that person to be a domestic terrorist and is charging them with being a domestic terrorist. So through speech, remember, she was talking about how free speech, there's hate speech now. I showed the video. She said, now there's hate speech that doesn't fall in line with the First Amendment. And then the whole domestic terrorist. So people are getting charged for being domestic terrorists for just saying things. which is fascinating because that's falling right in line with what we have happening here. Now, there's the whole thing about the No Kings thing. You heard about, there was a whole bunch of reports out there that George Soros was funding it. Fascinating because the number that I saw that there was 7 million participants in the No Kings Day. So basically what people are saying is 7 million people got paid $5,000 each to participate in the No Kings protest. That's what they're claiming. I'm not buying that. I'm not a George Soros defender in any way, shape, or form, but I'm not buying that report, to say the least. And honestly, if you really want to look at it from the big lens and you want to see what's going on with that, who's the one that benefits from that whole No King's Day situation? I'll give you a second. Who's the one that benefits from it? The technocrats do. Soros doesn't gain anything. Trump doesn't gain anything. The technocrats do. Why? Because they were able to utilize all of that facial recognition, biometric data collection, AI system. They were able to utilize all of that during the protests in order to gather information, to run tests and logistic tests to make sure that their systems are working properly. Palantir, Clearview, Carbine, all of those corporations were the one that benefited from it. So how do you do it? Well, you utilize the left and the right. You utilize George Soros and his track record of paying for protests and riots, and then you use the Trump administration's crackdown on domestic terrorisms, and you utilize that in order to benefit the technobros. That's if you want to actually look at it from the big eye lens. We know the direction that they're going. We know that the left and the right are friends, all being controlled by the same group. So who's the group that controls them? The technobros. Bada bing, bada boom. They're the ones that benefited. It was a giant mass test. That's all it was. And you just get a whole bunch of what they would call useless eaters, ones who are blinded by the political theater to participate in the whole situation. And there you go. Simple as that. But what we have going on here, is the military counterintelligence agents are now able to operate off base, off military grounds, in order to arrest, I believe what they call as terrorists. So Army CI agents were formerly unable to conduct searches, execute warrants, or make arrests outside of military installations owing to legal challenges due to the Army's limited jurisdiction within the United States. And it goes on to say, I don't think I have it highlighted. They don't have it highlighted. But it's going after who they would deem terrorists. And so this works in line with the NSPM-7. Again, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about with that thing, I have a video on my channel. It's a clip video, literally NSPM-7. You can't miss it. I didn't put it out too long ago. Just go and watch that, and I do a breakdown of what it is. These Army counterintelligence agents are going to be able to start investigating and arresting who the country deem as terrorists. Well, that NSPS-7 or PM-7 makes all of us terrorists for not going along with the Trump administration policies on things. So the Army is going to be able to now operate outside of military bases to arrest us. So again, what they're doing is they are building this authoritarian system all the way down from judge, jury to executioner. And it all applies to U.S. citizens under the name of immigration. So again, you create the problem, install the solution. And that's what's going on. So create the problem through Biden's chaos, install the solution through Trump's authoritarianism. Simple as that. Everybody's working for the same team. Everybody's working through the same team. Shawnee says, will Christians be at the top of the list? Well, I can't explain it the best off the top of my head. Go watch that video about the NSPM-7. But basically, one of the stipulations that would classify you as a politically violent or domestic terrorist is if you have something against, I can't remember the verbiage, the exact term that they used, but something against Christianity. What it does is it leaves an open, broad view of what Christianity is, what the Trump administration deems as Christianity. And how I explained it during that time, again, go watch the video. How I explained it during that time was I would be considered a domestic terrorist because I call out the version of Christianity that the Trump administration holds to. I literally just did a video calling out Eric Trump about his view of what's going on with Christianity and God in this country and so on and so forth. I'm pretty sure I would be put on the domestic terrorist list for me opposing what Eric Trump said about it. And so that's where that falls in line. So if you don't fall in line with their form of it, this is straight out of 1930s Germany. It's the same thing Hitler did. If you don't fall in line with Hitler's form of Christianity, which wasn't Christianity at all, then you are an enemy to them and they would go and get you. And so it's the same thing that they're applying here on this. Keep in mind, Stephen Miller, Project 2025 is like the United States version of Goebbels, that's what he did during Nazi Germany, was install this type of stuff and propaganda and everything. So fascinating how that works. So yes, they would definitely be coming after us. Okay. Oh man. So this is another continuation of corporatism. This is another continuation of fascism that's being taken place right now. And this is combining the military and private equity, Wall Street. So private individuals, private groups owning parts of the U.S. military. It says U.S. Army taps private equity groups to help fund $150 billion, with a B, billion dollar revamp. Apollo, KKR, Carlyle, and Cerberus among investors that held talks with federal government. It says the U.S. Army has asked private equity groups, including Apollo, Carlyle, KKR, and Cerberus, to pitch quote-unquote meaty strategic projects to help the service fund a $150 billion infrastructure overhaul. U.S. Army Secretary Daniel Driscoll and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent held a forum with about 15 of Wall Street's best-known buyout firms last Monday to discuss deals. Driscoll told the Financial Times he gathered the private investors to say, hey, here are all the assets we have in our arsenals and our depots that we are underutilizing. What are those types of deals? Where can we work with you to invite you in? And the Army Secretary, the service's top civilian officials, said that he asked the groups to drop clever financing models or unique financing models to help meet the Army's infrastructure needs. The proposals mark the latest example of the Trump administration's effort to work with the $13 trillion private capital industry. This is something that we have been going over for a long time now on this channel. This is the corporatism. This is the fascism. This is where you start going after the elites start taking over aspects of the United States government. The corporations start taking over aspects of the government. Basically, it used to be the corporations needed the government in order to function. Now it's flipped. The government needs the corporations for them to operate properly. And this is absolutely part of corporatism. This is the takeover of hedge funds, venture capital, elites, and corporations taking over the ruling aspects, the military aspects of entire countries. Basically, you are now being ruled by corporations and so on and so forth. That's what we're seeing right now. And this is just another continuation of that, where the U.S. Army is now going to be owned by Wall Street. Everybody feel comfortable about that? I mean, I don't feel comfortable with the government even having a standing army. I feel even less comfortable with Wall Street owning it. So it says the proposals mark the latest example of the Trump administration's effort to work with the $13 trillion private capital industry and an unprecedented effort to enlist some of Wall Street's biggest investors directly in U.S. national security. Driscoll added that the projects could include data centers and rare earth processing facilities and could involve the federal government swapping land for computer processing power or output from rare earth processing. He described the proposal to the group as, instead of paying us with cash for the land, you pay us in compute. So basically, their idea is, if you buy into this, we'll give you sections of land and you can put your data centers on them, but we get access to the processing power of those data centers. That's what we see going on with this deal proposal that's happening here. Let's see. Right here, Cerberus, one of the firms that attended the meeting, was founded by Steve Feinberg, who is Trump's Deputy Secretary of Defense. Feinberg vowed to divest his interest in Cerberus after he was picked. So basically, the Deputy Secretary of Defense is holding talks with his own company, his own venture capital company that he helped start. Anybody see conflict of interest there? Just curious. Driscoll's hunt for capital comes as he plots a revamp of aging equipment. The secretary, who has a background in investment banking, told the FT, Financial Times, he had a budget of just $15 billion to spend on the Army's infrastructure over the next decade, but needed $150 billion. So what do? You go running to Wall Street and private equity groups in order to fund the United States military. Now, it's important to note, when it comes to private equity groups, how it's built, how it runs, is the private equity group. They're what they're supposed to do. How it's designed is you bring in investors to invest in something, and it's supposed to be you're supposed to make money. Your whole goal as a private equity group is to make money for the investors that invest in you. And so if you're not doing that and you're not making money for your investors, you are basically a failing group. Your group is not doing what they have contracted with these people, what they've agreed to, and your investors are going to pull out and not invest. So if the equity groups are dumping money into the United States Army, they must make money. That's what they have to do. They have to make money for their investment group. The other thing that's important to remember with this is private equity groups, usually they work on a time-sensitive basis. After a certain amount of time and they've made a bunch of money, they must liquidate all of their assets. So that means if the private equity group is going to invest in the Army, they would have to not only make money for their investors over that period of time, but then at the end of that period of time, they must liquidate the assets and move on to something else. So this would be a temporary purchase, and they would need to make money for the investors. Question for everybody watching right now. How does the United States military make money? It's a 3-letter word. It's a very simple answer. I'm sure most of you know what it is. There's a song out there that I believe asks the question of what is it good for? The United States Army makes money through war. So if the private equity group is going to invest in the United States Army, that means in order for the investors to make money, you have to go to war. Interesting timing with this whole situation. So, keep that in mind. All right. Yeah, a lot of you got it. War. CIA. No. No, military doesn't make money through the CIA. I like where you're thinking. But yeah, no, war. So, All right. All right, so just a couple of things here. We're going to move on into corruption deal. Yeah, Peanut, war is big money. Exactly. Just remember, every time the economy tanks, they always drop a war to rebuild. Keep that in mind. All right, so moving into some corruption and stuff like that. Pay with benefits. Star Fox host Laura Ingraham is now in business with the president's son. It says Ingraham and Donald Trump Jr. are among the directors of Columbia Acquisition Group 3. That's such a weird name. A special purpose acquisition company which is seeking to raise $260 million in an initial public offering in order to acquire another company, according to a registration statement filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission's on Friday and first reported by Bloomberg. The firm's CEO is Omid Malik, co-founder and managing partner of the venture capital fund 1789 Capital, which invests in companies aligned with the MAGA movement and has grown into a financial powerhouse since November when Trump was elected president and his son became a partner. Imagine that. So 1789 Capital invests in companies connected to the MAGA movement and has completely shot up in profits when Trump was elected and Trump's son was involved with the company. Conflict of interest, anyone? Several other executives and directors for the SPAC are also 1789 Capital employees, the filing shows. So if we jump down, it says the potential conflicts of interest created by Ingraham's roles within SPAC and Fox are this. She stands to financially benefit from a business plan that is explicitly tied to the success of the MAGA movement. She stands to financially benefit from the sprawling business interests of the president's son, which otherwise could have been fodder for critical reporting. She seems to have received the opportunity due to her loyalty to the MAGA cause, which creates the implication that failure to remain loyal could prevent future such opportunities. She is slated to chair the SPAC's compensation committee, meaning she could directly control payments to the son of a president that she covers on her show, which is on Fox, of course, don't forget that. The SPAC prospectus cites its team's unique access to celebrities, technologists, tastemakers, investors, and entrepreneurs, which will assist in our target sourcing efforts, as well as their track record of building and boosting brands by partnering with influential figures with large followings. Applied to Ingraham, this language corrupts Fox's booking process by suggesting a potential secondary rationale for appearances on her show. So basically, because of her position on Fox and her position with this whole situation, not only would this be an opportunity for her to issue propaganda in order to benefit not only Donald Trump Jr., but also the MAGA movement, the Trump administration, and her own investment group. But at the same time, she must remain loyal in order to continue on with this situation, which means she can no longer be critical of any aspect of the Trump administration on her Fox show. So this is totally a problem, totally a conflict of interest, totally just corruption at its finest level between the Trump administration and Fox and all that type of stuff that's happening there. And it's fascinating too, because this is the same chick who was berating, what's his face? I can't even, is it Hunter Biden? That whole thing that's going on with the laptop and the drugs and the prostitutes and everything like that, which obviously that was a whole thing in itself. This is the same chick that was complaining about all of the corruption happening with that son. Meanwhile, she's getting in bed with this other son for this administration, and she finds no problem with it. And I want to bring that up specifically because I certainly hope that you guys see that it's all theatrics. It's all theatrics. They're all corrupt. They're all doing everything that benefits themselves and goes along with the script and everything in that type of way. But they're playing roles where it's my job is to stir the pot when it comes to Hunter Biden, but then I'm going to do the exact same thing that I was calling out over here because it benefits me. And this is how it works. So we have that happening. So now we got Ingraham from Fox, who's in business with Trump, Don Jr. there. So we have that. And finishing it off, we have this. Never ceases to amaze me with Greg Abbott. Donors to Texas Governor Greg Abbott's PAC have pulled in $1 billion in no-bid state contracts. A new study highlights how some of the governor's deep-pocket donors landed lucrative state contracts during disaster declarations. I'm telling you, he just doesn't have a leg to stand on. When disaster strikes in Texas, fast money follows. And according to a new data analysis, that fast money frequently flows to Greg Abbott's top donors. It says it is found, Public Citizen found that donors to Governors Texans for Greg Abbott's PAC received nearly $1 billion in no-bid state contracts from 2020 to 2024. Those came as Abbott declared state emergencies over the COOF pandemic, border security, and a variety of natural disasters, a move that enables the state to dispense with normal rules requiring it to assign contracts to the lowest bidders. Donors to Texans for Greg Abbott's racked up $950 million through 89 no-bid state contracts awarded during those disasters declarations. Meanwhile, the same companies often contributing via subsidies, PACs, their executives, and even executive spouses poured a combined $2.9 million into Abbott's PAC from 2014 to 2025. Okay, to simplify this, just to make this easy and to simplify it. How it usually works when it comes to state contracts is multiple companies put in a bid for a job that the state is looking to contract out. So say the state puts out a job, we need a bridge built here. Those who are interested in the job, please place your bid for how much, how long it would take you to build this bridge in this location. And so all the companies that are interested would put in their bid, and then the state usually picks a lower bid, a lower amount in order to do the job, so that company would win based on the bid that they provided. That's how it works. In the situation of emergencies, so in this case, the COOF emergency, state of emergency that they had, it opens it up to no bid contracts, which means they don't go through the timeline of having companies bid on jobs. The state would just go and hire somebody to do a specific job. Well, what is happening here is the companies that are on record, financial record, that donate to Greg Abbott's group, its PAC, its group that he's connected to, won $950 million of contracts through the no bid state contract situation. So basically, it's a pay to play scheme. Companies are donating to Abbott in order to get the no bid contracts to make all the money. So these companies poured $2.9 million into Abbott since 2014 to 2025. And because they gave all that money to Abbott, he doled out 89 no-bid contracts to those companies that totals out to about $950 million. It's straight up corruption. That's what is happening right here. And this is not how it's supposed to play. This is politics. This is business. This is, you guys pad my pockets, I'll make sure that I give you the contracts. And that's what is happening right here. We keep going. It says, I absolutely think it contributes to the widespread impression that there's unequal access to government in Texas, Shelley said. This is just another example of something that we see as a trend in Texas government. It absolutely is. I live in this state, and Abbott is as corrupt as they come. Let me tell you. There's a lot more that's happening. There's the school voucher situation with Odyssey, which I haven't talked about on this channel. I don't necessarily know how it all works in that situation, but there's clearly something happening there. I got a couple other examples I'll show, but this is not a first for Abbott, who's a member of the WEF, by the way. Abbott is a member of the World Economic Forum. But it says this is just another example of something that we see as a trend in Texas government, which is that big money donors get special favors from the state. And if we jump down, it says, however, Abbott in 2021 took the unprecedented step of declaring a state of disaster for more than 30 counties based on a rise in illegal border crossings, which allowed him to reallocate previously designated state funds to fund his border wall. Well, what's fascinating about that is I've covered this. I covered this in 2023. I went and I looked. I still have the video up. And he's talking about 2021 state of disaster for 30 counties regarding the illegal border crossing and everything like that. But what's fascinating is this. And again, I did a video on this. If you want to know more about it, you guys can go check it out. It's from 2 years ago. Abbott donor funds illegal alien housing project near Houston. It's the Colony Ridge development. You guys remember that? Colony Ridge Communities markets land to illegal aliens through loan loopholes while stakeholders contribute to Abbott yearly. As challenges, again, this is from 2023, as challenges continued surfacing as a result of record levels of illegal border crossings, Colony Ridge Communities, the land development company responsible for providing loans for the construction of the largest illegal alien settlements in America, this is right outside Houston, is funded by one of Governor Greg Abbott's major donors. In 2020, the Colony Ridge settlement included approximately 20,000 residents, and now, in 2023, includes an estimated 75,000. 75,000 illegals outside Texas in a Colony Ridge development built with loan loopholes, and the guy who's making bank off of it was the same one who was padding Abbott's pocket. We jump down here. It says William Harris, a main stakeholder in Colony Ridge, and his $300,000 yearly contributions to Abbott's political campaign since 2018. And I've pulled up the records. This is him, William Harris, right here. 2019, $300,000 to Greg Abbott, occupation, Colony Ridge development, $300,000 in 2021. Colony Ridge, $300,000, 2022. Colony Ridge, $300,000 to Greg Abbott, 2022. $100,000 to Greg Abbott in 2018 Colony Ridge. $100,000 Greg Abbott, 2020 Colony Ridge. So this dude was padding Abbott's pockets for Abbott to look the other direction and allow Colony Ridge to build its illegal immigration center right there. So Abbott made money, and this dude made money by basically trafficking illegals into a Colony Ridge development outside Houston. And this is the same guy who's against the illegals. He's all about shipping off his National Guard into Chicago and so on and so forth to stop the illegal immigration and stuff like that. No, he's just a corrupt politician who does anything that he can to make dollar. That's what's going on. Again, I did a video on that back in 2023 if you guys want to know more about that. And then there's this as well. Money, politics, and patient safety. Abbott donors on Texas Medical Board. This was initially posted in 2022, but was updated October last year. Greg Abbott tapped top dollar donors, say that 5 times fast, to sit on the Texas Medical Board. He also appointed members tasked with representing the consumer who come from telecom, business, real estate, and energy sectors with no obvious patient advocacy or medical experience. So basically, little less than half of Texas's medical board is CEOs and investors for telecom, communication businesses, business and finance sector, real estate sector, energy sector, people who have no experience in customer relations or medical. And they're sitting on the Texas Medical Board. Why? Because they paid money to Greg Abbott. If we jump down, it says digging through campaign finance records, we found 7 board members appointed by the governor who have collectively donated at least $393,000 to Abbott's campaign, according to campaign records filed with the Texas Ethics Commission dating back to 2014. By law, the 19-member medical board is in charge of licensing and regulating physicians in Texas. All are appointed by the governor to serve 6-year terms. A dozen of the Texas Medical Board members, more than half, are doctors. Less than half, 7, are considered quote-unquote public members. These are members who by design have no medical background and help balance the board in theory by advocating for the interest of patients and consumers. Now, this is not like a crazy thing in itself. Every state that has a medical board has quote unquote public members. They don't have any, they're not doctors. They don't have any medical school training or anything like that. But what they do have is they're supposed to be the voice of patients and the communities that these doctors work in. So they need to have some type of knowledge in that area of things. And so every state has that on their boards. But the problem is Texas has the most amount of public members on their Texas medical board, and none of them have any training, not only in medical stuff, but also in the community patient aspect that these people are supposed to have. They're just businessmen who donated money to Abbott. We jump down. These are the guys, and you can see this dude, Emmanuel 7,000, George L 11,000. All these guys donated up to 85,000, and the dude who donated to Greg Abbott, he's actually board president. He paid $85,000 for that position, and so basically, pay money to Abbott, get on the Texas Medical Board. Pay money to Abbott, build an illegal alien Colony Ridge. Pay money to Abbott, and all your wildest dreams will come true. That's what's going on. This is the corruption of what's happening. And this is happening, I can guarantee it. I don't have proof for it and whatnot, but I can guarantee this is happening with every governor of every state out there. I don't care if it's left. I don't care if it's right. I don't care if it's blue. I don't care if it's red. Because that's what politics is. Politics is a corrupt position. You're there for you. You're not there for the people. Doesn't work that way anymore. And the governor stuff is just as rigged as the Congress and the president and so on and so forth. And this is what happens when we live in a sin world. This is what happens when we live in a fallen world. The whole thing of how this is all supposed to work is you're supposed to have decent people being represented by decent people who those other decent people have escalated to be the voice for them. It's supposed to run through decent people. But the problem is we don't live in a decent world anymore. There's no decent people anymore. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that's just being judgmental. Hello, McFly, wake up, smell the coffee, take a look out the window, see what's going on around the world. There's no decent people anymore. I'm not even talking about good. We know nobody's good. I'm talking about just decency. It's gone. And that's not to sit here and complain and be Mr. Doomsayer and everything like that, but it's the reality of not only what we see happening in front of our very eyes right now in the world, but it's also exactly how the last days are described. Paul specifically gave us 19 very detailed definitions, defining words of what the last days are going to look like. And they're not going to get better. No matter what the NAR, the Christian Nationalist, Dominionist, Kingdom Now, all those groups say, it's never going to get better. It's going to deteriorate. It's going to get worse. People will get worse. Corruption will get worse. Lawlessness will get worse. That's not only the lawlessness that you see on the streets. That's the lawlessness that you see dressed in the monkey suits, sitting in public office. This is the world that we're in. Our job isn't to get depressed about it. Our job isn't to try and flip it around so Christ can bring the kingdom down while we prepare things. Our job is to be ambassadors to Christ, to encourage one another, to witness to others, to share the gospel. We need to make sure that we're not getting wrapped up in supporting corrupt, selfish individuals wearing ties, sitting in public office. That is a distraction that Satan wants you to get blinded by. It's so fascinating. It's just so fascinating whenever I see people who were pounding the table for Trump, and they're finally starting to get it. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord for those. There are some that are finally starting to get it. But they were pounding the table for Trump, and they see what is happening right now. They see what's going on. They're paying attention. It's like, what on earth is happening right now? And they're starting to get it. They're starting to understand that he's not who they were told that he was. And it's such a blessing to be able to see them come out of that illusion, to come out of that deception, and start to see that there's something else going on. Mind you, a lot of these people don't have Christ. They don't have Jesus. They're not in tune with what the scripture says about what's happening. And because they've come out of that deception, they're seeking what's really happening. Now, unfortunately, a lot of them are falling into other false religions, the Great Awakening situation that's happening there. A lot of them are falling into the truther movement, which is really Gnostic based when it comes to that situation. But there are some where they're lost sheep, and it's our job, our responsibility to go tell them about the shepherd he can then guide them home. Remember, we can't guide them home. We can't do that. We can't do that, but we can speak of the shepherd, Jesus Christ, who can pull them home. We need to make sure that that's what we're doing. And it's through the gospel of Jesus Christ that those sheep can be found by that shepherd and be drawn home. And his gospel is as simple as ABC. A, you admit that you're a sinner, the act of repentance, the changing of mind, metanoia, turning from self to Christ. Again, everything in this world is about self. We look at what's going on in this world. We just talked about all these people. It's all about self. Greg Abbott's about self. Trump's about self. Ingram's about self. Biden's about self. Obama's about self. All these people are about self. And they all follow that mystery religion, which is all about self. But one stands alone and says, it's not about you. It's not about you. You are not good. It's about me. It's about Christ. I'm reaching out to you. You don't have to save yourself. You don't have to reach out to some false god. You don't have to try and obtain salvation or enlightenment or awakening or any of those things, the next dimension, all these theories and beliefs and stuff like that. No, Christ says, I'm reaching out to you. All you have to do is just grab my hand. Believe. It's through that repentance that allows true belief in Jesus Christ. We believe that Jesus Christ is the one and only begotten Son of God. That he came down 100% man, 100% God, the God-man, the one and only, and he lived the perfect sinless life. The only one to do so, which means he was the only one qualified to carry the sins of the world upon his shoulders. He carried them to the cross where he was crucified and he died. He took my place upon that cross. He took my death that I deserve. And he did it for me. He did it for you. But because there's power in the blood of Jesus Christ, and he did exactly as he said, promised, and prophesied that he would, he defeated death and rose again on the third day for all who believe in him, for all who believe in him, for all who believe in him shall not perish but live forever in his presence and in his glory. The glory is his. He did it. And it is the completed work. He didn't leave it halfway done. He didn't forget something. He didn't do it partially. He didn't say, well, I did this. I just need you to do that. No, it is finished. Tetelestai. It is done. Completed work. And it is through the blood of Jesus Christ and our belief that we place within him and the work that he did upon that cross that we find salvation. We are given eternal life to spend forever in the presence of the Father and of the Son, indwelt with the Holy Spirit. And see, as we call upon the Lord, when we receive salvation, we are indwelt with the Holy Spirit. We are sealed by the Holy Spirit and given an incredible supernatural gift of prayer, where we are allowed direct access to the throne room of God, where we can speak with God at any time. He doesn't take vacations. He doesn't have breaks. He doesn't have an answering machine type of thing. I'll call you back later. At any moment of any day, we get to speak to our Father where we say, Lord Jesus, thank you. Thank you for coming and sacrificing yourself and defeating death so that I may live. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for what you have done on that cross, so I may spend eternity in your presence, worshiping you. You gave your life, and I owe you mine. Lord, please be with me, be with us as we walk through this earth right now, this earth that is just being swallowed in darkness and corruption, lawlessness and evil, as Satan's army continues to be deployed upon this earth. Lord, we understand that you are in full control of everything. Give us the strength to take the next step of each day. Give us the boldness to speak your name and to stand, more often than not, alone in the sea of people, the sea of faces. But give us the boldness to speak your name. God, and we ask, Lord Jesus, please come soon. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Amen. Don't wait, guys. If you don't have the Lord, don't wait. Don't put it off. We don't know when the Lord's coming. You don't know if tomorrow you just take a step out there and get hit by a bus. Don't take the chance. Don't take that risk. It's just not a risk worth taking. And for those who do have Christ, take this information, be bold with it, and encourage one another with it. Again, we are called to encourage and edify each other with everything that is going on right now. So take the opportunity to not only witness, to share the gospel, be bold for the Lord, but also be encouraging to one another. All right. What do we got with questions? What do we got going on here? Well, it seems like the internet held, so hopefully that's good. All right. Let's see here. Fiona Fapp, have you discussed Ziklag in America? Ziklag. I don't even know what that is, Fiona. So if I don't know what that is, I probably haven't, unless it's something that I know by a different name. But as of right now, I don't know what that is. So I would have to say probably not. Let's see here. Patrick Starr, did you see that Trump is demanding that the Justice Department pay him $230 million in compensation? Yeah, that was probably sent in before we went over it. Yeah, I went over that. So we'll see what happens with that. So I believe I answered that question already, Patrick. I've got that mystic. No, I'm not. Predicted that you were going to ask that question. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, we covered that already. So, Lori S. question, heard the government shutdown is going to affect people's food stamps. Do you know anything regarding this? Yes. I believe that there's going to be some states, not all of them, but there's going to be some states that they're going to be out at the end of the month. So at the end of October, SNAP benefits and stuff in some states will be turned off. I don't know about the other states. I don't know when that would happen. And I don't know the individual states. So you would have to go and look that up. But yeah, there's going to be some that those benefits will shut off at the end of the month. We already know that the program that delivers food to food banks has been shut off. We covered that, I think, last week. I think it was last week or the week before. We covered that. So all that's happening right now. So yeah, that's going to be a part of it with that. So if you're one of those people that's on food stamps, check to make sure your state to see where your state's happening with that. But yeah, that's going to stop. Let's see here. Patrick Star question. So if the current government structure isn't turned back on again, how do you think it could be structured in the future? No more Congress, more power to the President, Department of War. I'm not exactly sure how that would work. As of right now, if you really want to just get to the nuts and bolts of it, currently, I know a lot of people are saying like Trump's kind of running the things right now. Trump is just he's the figurehead for it. They're saying just go out there, do your public stuff, and so on and so forth. When it comes to what's going on in the United States right now, it is very clear that the handlers of making everything run is Russell Vogue and Stephen Miller. Russell is clearly handling what's going on with the internal government stuff, finance, the financial, overseeing the finance stuff. Obviously, Scott Bessent is kind of part of that as well, but it's clear Russell is really handling all that stuff. And then Stephen Miller's clearly handling everything that's happening with, like the immigration stuff and everything like that. Pam Bondi's a part of that, but it's really Stephen Miller. Remember, Russell and Stephen Miller, those are the two guys who helped write Project 2025. So they're the ones that are orchestrating everything right now. So I would suggest that those two would probably be playing a major role. If they restructured things, they would have large positions when it comes to this. Remember, every president has a handler, a puppeteer, the ones who are instructing and giving guidance from up above them, not God, but up above the satanic structure that we see. And that seems to be Russ and Stephen Miller. So just from the nuts and bolts, I would think that they would have bigger positions than what they do now, even though they have pretty large positions right now. But yeah, Congress, I mean, they're just kind of a show right now anyways. They've been just a show. So if this continues, yeah, they wouldn't need them anymore. In that perspective, especially if Insurrection Act declared, martial law declared, so on and so forth. I haven't shown it, but there's a video that Trump posted where it shows him standing behind, where it says like Trump 2024 or 2025, whatever, Trump 2020, 8 and stuff like that. And it shows him standing behind that, and it keeps going up and up and up and up and up. It never stops. So it's kind of signaling that may be what's going on. We also know that he said, vote for me, you'll never have to vote again. A lot of people say, he's just jesting. That's not what he actually meant. But yet we continue to get more and more evidence that shows that he's probably the last president. In that regards, that then you can even go further down the rabbit hole at that point. If you guys want to take a look at, I've talked about it before but there's a book written called The Last President, back in the day, that has to do with Trump Tower and stuff. It's interesting. But yeah, so if this continues on, I would say that Russ and Stephen Miller will play a part. The other thing that I want to remind people on that I think is important is Trump seems to be getting too big for his britches. His ego is so large that I think it's getting to the point where if he continues to cause chaos, I think he's gone off script a lot, but if he continues to cause chaos and it may mess stuff up, they may get rid of him. And that would mean installing Peter Thiel's dude of JD Vance, who is very much on a leash, very easy to control. And so I believe that that's on the table as well. Remember, if we go back in time, what happened with World War II is the same rise that Trump had now is very similar to the rise that Hitler had back in Nazi Germany. I've made reference to that before. We're not going to get into it, but Hitler was trained up when he was in jail. He was taken aside by several very high ruling people who trained him up when he was in prison. And then obviously Hitler was very charismatic, and so he came into position and he went off script. This whole takeover of the world that they were planning was supposed to happen at World War II. It was very clear, but Hitler decided, I'm going to take this opportunity to make myself a king and take over myself. And so they had to scramble everything up, get rid of him, and so on and so forth. We see what happened there. So that was an off-the-script chaos moment that they had to fix. The ego that Hitler had is very similar to what Trump has. And so if he decides to go off script, they're going to have to take him out too. And so that's where you start getting into a completely different government at that point. How that would work, I'm not sure. But that's something to keep in mind as well. So, Patrick, that's a lot of stuff I just kind of covered. Probably not exactly what you're asking, but hopefully that answers your question on that. Doc, I see your question about Charlie Kirk. That's nothing but speculation, and there's really no reason to go over that. Helen M. question, who are the Bobs? The Bobs. That's Bob's Corporate Assessment Service. I'm gonna read my own shirt. From 1999. It's the Bobs from Office Space. It's when they're going over their corporation assessment, interviewing all the employees on who to fire. So can you explain to me exactly what you do here? The Bobs. So you'd have to see Office Space to get it, but those are the Bobs. So good luck with your layoffs. I hope you guys have a great time firing people. So good stuff. Okay. Cindy J. question, screwworm still a thing as cost is higher for beef? Is it like take a risk? Don't worry about the screwworm and the beef that you're eating right now. The screwworm is still a thing. I haven't seen any updates that it's gotten closer to the United States border. Again, I can only go off of the stuff I've seen. So I'm still keeping an eye on it. I haven't seen anything that says it's getting closer. As far as the cost of higher beef and everything, I'm looking at something. I didn't cover it tonight, but I'm looking at something because now it looks like the United States is going to stop buying beef from American ranchers and is going to start buying beef from Argentina, which that adds a whole nother threat to it. I'm still looking at it. I don't have anything on it yet, but you should hear from me about that a little later. But no, don't worry about screwworming your beef right now. Just worry about having to pay for beef with like a kidney or something. But yeah, so that's the update on that. Carol Lamb, question, is stablecoin intended to create more liquidity using tokenized assets so as to extend the debt implosion timeline? Bank failure talks on the horizon again. Yeah, they're always going with the bank failures and stuff like that. Stablecoin is the opportunity for them to hitch digital currency to a physical asset and basically eliminate fiat debt. And so stablecoin, as of right now, is currently being hitched to the dollar. But we've talked about this in the past. That is eventually supposed to be switching to treasuries, treasury bonds, which would be a little bit easier to then ditch the fiat from there. So you go from fiat dollar to bonds. You can then ditch the dollar at that point, and now your currency is based off of those bonds. You still have debt when it comes to the bonds. The latest thing that I saw is they are currently discussing switching from stablecoin or backing the stablecoin with the dollar to backing the stablecoin with Bitcoin, which makes it interesting because if they do that, then all debt would be wiped out at that point. And now you literally have a digital currency, nothing, being backed by another digital currency, nothing. And then they can just do whatever they want to at that point. So that's something that I just saw. It's just a rumor. There's no announcement on it, but one of the people that's involved with the stablecoin situation has thrown out the idea, put it out there, that they want to back stablecoin with Bitcoin. So we'll see what happens with that. It's a constant moving situation. As far as the whole bank stuff, collapse, stuff like that, it's one of the reasons why there's a certain prophecy dude out there that loves to stir up fear and doom stuff with the financial stuff. He's been doing it for years. I believe, and I stand by this like 100%, financial collapse is not going to happen while the church is here. I stand by that like 100%. The bank collapse would be a total financial collapse, a wipeout of the entire world's financial system to re-implement or to install a brand new system. And Matthew 24 says that we're not going to see an earth-shattering event like that while we're here. So I stand by that. We're not going to be here for when that happens. So don't panic about that. Don't worry about that. And as far as stablecoin, as of right now, it's backed to the dollar. It's backed by the dollar, but they're looking at changing it to treasuries and Bitcoin. So we'll see what happens there. Just a couple more questions. Chris Believer in Jesus question: did you know that when a frog's car breaks down, it gets towed away? Hey, you stole that joke from Fitz. Fitz tells that joke. Come on, man. A good bear. He's a good bear. He needs gummy worms. Give him some gummy worms. Last but not least, Stephanie. It's like, did you get your demerits from last time, Stephanie? Anyways, who was the first person to figure out how to milk a cow? You know, that's a question that I have asked myself and then realized that I don't want to know the answer to. Who was the first person that said, you know what, let's milk a cow and drink what comes out from it? It's like, what? Who in their right mind comes out? Goats, too. You can get goat milk. It's like, who thought that was a good idea? Hey, let's take a goat, milk it, and see what it tastes like. Like, y'all got problems. Y'all are, again, you got problems. You need a therapist. That's what you need. You need Jesus. You need a therapist. And y'all just need to go home. Anyways, that's all I got, guys. Thank you for joining me today. And usual spiel, if you guys can, like, share, subscribe. Get this out to as many people as you can. It's not about views, it's not about butts and seats, but it is about getting the warning out to people and getting people to Jesus. So if you guys can do me a solid and like, share, subscribe, certainly appreciate it. Again, we got people out there looking for answers, looking for some type of understanding of what's going on, and ultimately need the gospel of Jesus Christ. And liking, sharing, and subscribing does help reach those people. Also, if you guys can't follow me, Rumble and Telegram, those are my backup channels. If I get booted off YouTube, we'll be backup live streaming over on Rumble, so make sure you guys follow me there. Telegram, post updates, announcements, and other little things here and there. Can't necessarily put in video format, so make sure you guys follow me there too. You don't like Rumble, you don't like Telegram, I completely understand. So make sure you guys bookmark the WretchedWatchmen.com website. It's your one-stop shop for everything going on in the Wretched area of things. Find the latest podcasts, live streams, announcements. The Eden End free book is there. Just click on the free book thing and download and good to go. Check that out. And everything you want to know is all there. So bookmark the website. And last but not least, if you guys like to support this channel, what I got going on, I got donation links down below. CashApp, Venmo, and Give, Send, Go. This channel is not monetized. I don't make anything from ads, views, or anything like that. It is run solely off of your guys' generous donations. So if you guys would like to support this channel and all the stuff going on, those links are below. Thank you guys. Thank you for your support, for your prayers, your donations, your encouragement, and everything. You guys are incredible. And I thank you guys. I thank the Lord for you guys. And you guys are absolutely awesome. So thank you guys. All right. That's all I got. Yeah. So again, just go out, be bold for the Lord. It's going to be hard, especially as we get further into the last days. You're going to be standing alone a lot of the time. But remember, when you're standing alone, you have the only one that matters standing right next to you, and that's Jesus Christ. So you're not actually standing alone. So just be bold for the Lord. And if the Lord does not come back by Saturday, same time, same place, I'll meet you guys right back here. Peace out. Maranatha.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.